right. I think I know who's good and bad now. Spoilers, I don't. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to do Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom, but I do know who the bad teams are, Grossi, and today we are going to be ranking the top 10 teams heading into week 4 of the 2023-2024 NFL season. And listen, week 3 may have been the most chaotic yet. You had a team drop 70 points on the Broncos. Looking at you, Dolphins. You had the Cardinals beating the Cowboys. You had the NFC South just lose. And hey, maybe some contenders in the AFC South are starting to rise. But either way, it's starting to get a little hairy. And with that being said, let's start off with number 10. And that is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens. Well, the injuries are starting to mount up.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
The Ravens lost to the Colts this past weekend, and you could look at the offense as the problem. You could look at the refs as a problem. But what we can all agree on is the fact that this team just cannot stay healthy. Lamar Jackson had a good game. He was their leading rusher. And I think that just looking at it, it's just a frustrating loss because they definitely could have won this game. Hell, you even had Tucker miss a kick. So something's definitely wrong. The Ravens are still in the top 10, though, because they have the talent, even though, again, a bunch of it is injured. They have the talent to be a very good football team, and I know that their division is not the greatest right now, but overall, I think the Ravens still make a top 10 team when everything is clicking. We've seen how good Lamar Jackson can be. It just happened last week. However, they are playing the Browns this week, which is a major game for them going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. And so, Ravens currently are in the top 10, holding off my Packers, but we'll see how this week goes. Then at number 9, you got the Detroit Lions. That's right, coming back into the top 10. That Lions game.
The Lions? Wait, like the animal from the circus? They were playing a game. I'm just trying to understand here.
Yeah, they showed how a defense can actually take care of Bijan Robinson and make sure that he doesn't run all over them. Listen, the defense of the Lions is absolutely no joke. Aiden Hutchinson was wreaking havoc, and Brian Branch. Every time he makes a play, I get tagged in it. Oh, look, Tom Grossi. Look how Brian Branch is doing. Oh, you remember when the Packers traded with the Lions in draft day and they drafted Brian Branch? Oh, don't the Packers need safeties? Yeah. It looks like Brian Branch is going to be a good player, and they absolutely took care of business against the Falcons. I know they're dealing with a bunch of injuries right now, but overall, the Lions are still a dominant football team, and I know they lost to the Seahawks a week ago, but I think that they're going to be a contender this year, and it is going to be all on the line this Thursday as they take on the Packers. And listen, Lions, if you lose, the Packers will likely take your spot next week in the top 10. So be careful what you wish for. And by the way, no, Brian Branch will not get an interception on Thursday.
Are you serious?
Then at number 8, you got the Seattle Seahawks. I just gotta ask, that Panthers defender that Charbonnet stiff-armed into oblivion, is he okay? Good God, that was some angry running. The Seahawks took care of business against the Panthers. It was rocking in Lumen Field. Now, the Seahawks, who again are dealing with some injuries, especially along the offensive line, they don't look incredible, but their team is talented enough that they are definitely going to be teams like the Panthers. I mean, hell, Andy Dalton threw for nearly 400 yards on that defense, so there are definitely some weak spots here. But the Seahawks are a tough-ass football team. They lost to the Rams, who look like they are at least decent. And then they were able to bounce back and beat the Lions. They took care of business here home against the Panthers. And overall, I like the Seahawks going forward. I'm just curious to see how they're going to play against a team like the 49ers. Number 7, you got the Cleveland Browns. That's right, the Browns rising up the top 10 again. and it is because of their fracking defense. And also one man, Myles Garrett.
Not be bullied by that.
The Titans offense, which definitely has sputtered 2 out of the 3 weeks, was abysmal against the Browns pass rush. They couldn't get anything going. They held Derrick Henry to 20 yards, and that's just pretty darn impressive. Deshaun Watson did not have his greatest day. I know the thing that went viral was him throwing the ball backwards, but overall looked better than he did against the Steelers defense, and the Titans do have a pretty stout defense. So the Browns, you make the top 10 again. I don't know how far they're going to go, but they're chilling at the top of the AFC North. How long will they remain there? We'll see after this week. Number 6, you got the Dallas Cowboys. They were number 1 on my power rankings last week, but now they've fallen down because they lost to the Cardinals. The Cardinals! And Cowboys fans, I'm sure you're going to be brushing this loss off.
It's fine!
Ugh.
But there is definitely some room for concern. Now, the Cowboys, they have a bunch of injuries, not only to their offensive line, but of course, Trayvon Diggs, unfortunately out for the year with a torn ACL, which is just a terrible loss for that secondary. But it just seems like the Cowboys were losing that aggression. I mean, Josh Dobbs was able to rip off a couple of yards. James Conner had a nice day on the ground. And I don't know if this was just a trap game that they overlooked. I think there's definitely some room for concern with the Cowboys, with that secondary. But Dak threw his first interception of the season in the end zone, which is the worst place that you can throw it. And I know that Dak gets a ton of criticism, but this is not going to quiet any of that noise. I do think the Cowboys are going to be able to shake this off, not to quote Taylor Swift because that's for the Chiefs game, but kind of going forward, I think maybe we'd be a little bit more hesitant on the Cowboys, and we'll see soon enough if this was a fluke game or the start of a pretty bad pattern. Then at number 5, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Welcome back to the top 5 because Chiefs in my mentions right now.
Tom, we're back.
The Chiefs absolutely dominated the Chicago Bears on Sunday, just blasted them, scoring over 40 on them, and they just were the better football team. How good were they? Fox even had to cut away from it, and that's cutting away from Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, oh yeah, and Taylor Swift, who was there, is now apparently dating Travis Kelce, and I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know if it's going to make Travis Kelce play better, but Travis Kelce's literally like, hey, you want to see me catch a touchdown? And I'm pretty sure on that defense, even Taylor Swift could have caught a TD because the Bears look abysmal. This was another get-right win for the Chiefs, who struggled a bit against the Jaguars last week. And here, they're back above 500. I'm sure they're going to be just fine going forward. And we'll see if Kelce and Swift are a love story. Number 4, you got the Buffalo Bills. And Josh Allen feasted on that Commanders defense.
The salted pork is particularly good.
But we need to look at the other end too, because that Bills defense, 9 sacks on Sam Howell. And I've been saying this about the Commanders week after week because they were undefeated coming into this week, that their offensive line is a major, major problem. And that's what's giving me some hesitation into even mentioning them in the top 10. And it collapsed against the Bills. The Bills, 2 weeks in a row, have had really, really good performances on offense and on defense, and they are looking like a complete football team right now after that really bad loss week 1 against the Jets. However, they are about to face their strongest test yet against the Miami Dolphins, who just dropped 70 on the Broncos. We'll see how they respond. It's being played in Buffalo, but right now, at least for now, it looks like the Bills are back. Number 3, you got the Philadelphia Eagles dominating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and honestly, kind of showing the Bucs what a real defense looks like. Because the Buccaneers, I'm not trying to throw too much shade at them. They've had a good defense the past 2 weeks, and it just wasn't able to contain the Eagles that well. Though I will say, when it got into the red zone, the Eagles didn't do as well as I thought they would. And when your offense struggles a bit, you do the tush push.
Works every time.
Jalen Hurts scoring a rushing touchdown almost seems like a guarantee every single week. A.J. Brown having a really good game, and again, that defense of the Eagles showing out. Jalen Carter, man, is going to be a major problem, and everybody and their mother predicted it. But right now, the Eagles, they're in the top 3. Their offense isn't fully there to where it was last year, but DeAndre Swift looks like an amazing addition to that offense. And I imagine the Eagles are going to win a lot more games than they lose because of the way their team is built. Number 2, you got the San Francisco 49ers. Still holding on to that number 2 spot. And listen, Brock Purdy didn't even have a great game, and they still scored 30 points.
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
It was a little bit closer in the first half than I anticipated, but I got to give a shout out to not only the Giants for surviving that long, but I do have to give a shout out to the offensive line of the 49ers, because the Giants, they were just throwing blitz after blitz after blitz, and Brock Purdy, for the most part, though it wasn't his best game, still was able to overcome that. And the real point is that there's so many skill players on that team that they'll be able to overcome a lot. You look at Christian McCaffrey, you look at Deebo Samuel, both phenomenal players, George Kittle getting in on the action. Oh yeah, and their defense is nothing to shake your finger at either. The 49ers are one of the most balanced football teams in the NFL. Right now, they're sitting at number 2, but as soon as one of these other teams falter, if they do, I will not be surprised if they reclaim that number 1 spot. And finally, at number 1, you got the Miami Dolphins. Because who else is it going to be? Mike McDaniel, after that offensive performance?
You ask me if I have a God complex? Let me tell you something. I am God.
And rightfully so. The Dolphins scored 70 points on the Broncos, but I want to make something very, very clear. The reason why the Dolphins are number 1, and because they've been hovering around this spot for the past 3 weeks, is because they've won each game in a different way, and I am incredibly impressed. They aired it out week 1 against the Chargers. Week 2, ground and pound. Raheem Mostert ran all over the Patriots. And this week, a combination of both air and ground attack, they were phenomenal. Hell, Mike White is even scoring touchdowns. That offense looks to be unstoppable. The fact that the Patriots were able to contain Tyreek Hill when they faced him, that in of itself is a small miracle, because the Dolphins, they look incredible. Their defense is playing really good football. They're able to contain just about every single one of their opponents. Their defense against the run was a little bit concerning in week 1, not so much anymore. And again, even if you're able to score points against the Dolphins, who is stopping that offensive pass attack right now? Or Raheem Mostert, or Achan, whatever he wants to be called, I'm going to call him great. And so either way, the Dolphins are a phenomenal football team right now. They are the best team in the league. And yeah, they play the Bills on Sunday, and that is going to be one hell of a game. So to recap real quick, at number 1, you got the Dolphins, 2 the 49ers, 3 Eagles, 4 Bills, 5 Chiefs, 6 Cowboys, 7 Browns, 8 Seahawks, 9 Lions, and 10 Ravens. But of course, let me know what you think down in the comments below. You'd always find me at Tom Grossi Comedy on all the social media is seen down below. A big shout out and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this show. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.